So a new bill has been introduced in the Senate. I want to address what is in this new bill. What are lawmakers trying to do, and how is this going to impact every single one of us moving forward? Well, here's the thing. No matter what lawmakers do, what they are proposing at this time, according to reports, is starting to take hold. And the reason I bring this up is because it all starts with a proposal. The proposal turns into another proposal, then two proposals turn into a negotiation. That's normally what happens. Well, that's what's happening now. So first, I want to show you what this new proposal is and how one senator is proposing taking $15 billion from one government agency and pushing it towards another. So, before I get into that, all I ask is if you can spend 2 seconds, go ahead, hit that like button, and let's get right down to it. So here's what it says. Senator Tim Scott introduces a bill to divert $15 billion from the IRS and push it towards border security. Now, what does this mean? And how are we going to really see this play out? Well, let's read it. It says Republican Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina introduced legislation on Wednesday that would redirect $15 billion from the $80 billion in new funding for the IRS in order to beef up security on the southern U.S. border. Now, I want to bring this up for a couple reasons. First, a lot of people are talking about the security at the border. It's too easy to get in. You see pictures, you'll see videos, just massive amounts of people just pretty much rushing the border. We've seen this multiple times. And as we start to kind of open things up, if the economy is struggling here in the U.S., there's a good chance people are still going to come. And here's the reason why. According to reports, these other countries, southern countries, and I'm not talking about just Mexico, I'm talking about anywhere south of the U.S. Southern border. Anywhere south of that, people are just migrating to the border in hopes that they can get through. Well, what we know is that Republicans do not want the IRS to have $80 billion. And frankly, a lot of Americans do not want the IRS having an additional $80 billion that they can go and hire 87,000 new IRS agents. Because what's that going to do? Probably get us all audited, right? Nobody really wants that, okay? But let's go and read the rest of this article. This article's from the Zero Hedge. So if you want to go check it out, go zerohedge.com. But here's the rest of the article. It says right here, according to the Daily Caller, the Securing Our Border Act would specifically fund border inspections to allow law enforcement officials to better combat the illegal trafficking of drugs and other substances before they enter the United States. It goes on to say the bill would also fund border wall construction and other technologies to help with tracking and enforcement efforts along the southwest border. Additionally, the legislation would give retention bonuses to Border Patrol agents and end the catch and release policy. Now, let's talk about that for a second. That's actually pretty big. If Border Patrol agents are actually getting something what they're calling a retention bonus, that's pretty big. That's actually what we saw back during the pandemic days, where, we want to keep you on, so we're going to give you a bonus, right? But it worked. People stayed. Because what's one of the biggest issues that border protection agents or border agents have right now is that they feel like they are doing too much work. There's not a lot of people that want to go and do this job because of what it entails. The security risk, right? It's a dangerous job. And now it's even worse. But this article goes on to say GOP officials have argued that the $80 billion in new IRS funding, which would be used to hire more than 87,000 new IRS employees, will increase audits on poor and middle-class Americans. I've seen so many reports. Every single one says the exact same thing. Nobody's really refuting that. It says, despite a pledge by the Biden administration to go after wealthier individuals. Here's the thing. Wealthy individuals usually have a team of people. They pay for an accountant, they pay for lawyers, they pay for all these people that will do the work for them. So guess what? If a wealthier person got audited, they'd send their team, and chances are that IRS agent is not going to beat a whole team of people, or they're not going to have the experience and the background and the knowledge in order to do it. So they usually get off. Now, I wanted to bring this up because of something. Multiple pieces of legislation are going after one thing. Okay, one thing. Remember I talked about this the other day. I talked about how SNAP benefits, they could actually be increased. But where were they going to get the money? I talked about Social Security and how what we could see is spending get reduced in the fiscal year 2024 budget. We could see it get reduced, and that would actually bring down some of the funding that goes to Social Security. Well, how would the Social Security Administration be able to run? Well, I talked about this and I said they go after the IRS funding. That's what lawmakers are looking to do. That's what Republicans want to do. Go after the $80 billion in IRS funding. That's $80 billion additionally to what they received before. Guess what? According to the IRS, they said that they were on track after just using $1 billion. Just $1 billion. They didn't need the other $79 billion. That's a huge difference. And so this bill right here, okay, this one, and I don't think this is going to get passed. I honestly don't think it's going to get passed. But what it does is it opens the doors. It opens the doors to additional discussions. It opens the doors to possibly using some of this $80 billion for other things. Again, whether it's Social Security, for the border protection, for SNAP benefits, for affordable housing, for child tax credit payments. Could go to Medicare, go to Medicaid, right? There's so many different options here. But the big thing is now lawmakers are all targeting the IRS funding. But you know what's interesting about this is there's not a lot of talk saying that no, none of this stuff's going to happen. What we're hearing at this point is, well, that's a proposal. Let's discuss it. Let's negotiate. So there's actually Democrats that are wanting to negotiate things, even though the negotiation and the starting point for the Republican side is let's target the IRS funding. What that makes me think is the IRS funding is going to go away. We are going to see that targeted. It will be clawed back, and the GOP is going to use that in order to fund other things. So as we get more information as to what is going on here and how this is going to impact every single one of us and our wallets, I promise I will bring you all the latest news and updates. Again, thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing. I'll see you guys on the next one.